Hello everyone, hope you are doing well. From this video, I'm going to talk about psychological disorders. So let's get started. Psychological disorders come under abnormal behavior. So let's see what do we mean by an abnormal behavior. Abnormal behavior is a behavior that occurs people to experience distress and prevents them from functioning in their daily life. Next, we have perspectives on psychological disorders. So clinicians, researchers, and scholars with a variety of backgrounds and interests have adopted different perspectives, which means different ways of describing and explaining mental disorders. None of these perspectives have a monopoly on the truth. Rather, each accounts for different aspects of a very complex phenomenon. First, we have medical perspective. From the medical perspective, psychological disorders are considered as a fundamental physical diseases of the brain. So this perspective motivates the attempt to find measurable abnormalities in the brain that correlate with observed disorders and to develop treatments in the form of drugs or other direct means to alter the brain. The brain disease may result from genes or from such environmental assaults as poisons, including alcohol or other drugs consumed by the mother while pregnant, also birth difficulties such as oxygen deprivation during birth, and also viruses or bacteria that attack the brain. Then we have psychoanalytic perspective. Psychoanalytic perspective suggests that theories such as that developed by Sigmund Freud propose that mental disorders arise from mental conflicts and drives that the person has been unable to resolve or coordinate with the realities of life and that therefore generate anxiety. To defend against this anxiety, the person may repress or mask the conflicts and drives, and that process may result in the maladaptive ways of thinking and behaving that lead to a diagnosis of mental disorder. So the psychodynamic therapist's task is to help the person become aware of and talk about the conflicts and drives that underlie the disorder's thinking and action so that he or she can begin to resolve the conflicts consciously and direct the drives toward more useful ends. Many psychoanalytic theories hold that the conflicts and anxieties that have such crippling effects originate from traumatic, which means very stressful experiences in early childhood. Then we have behavioral perspective. Behavioral perspective views abnormal behavior not as a symptom of an underlying problem, but as the problem itself. Also, behavioral perspective is more concerned with the person's conscious action. Then we have cognitive perspective. Cognitive perspective suggests that abnormal behavior is a result of faulty cognition, which means thoughts and beliefs. In this view, abnormal behavior can be remedied by changing one's flawed thoughts and beliefs. Also, cognitive perspective is more concerned with the person's conscious thoughts. Then we have humanistic perspective, which emphasizes the responsibility people have for their own behavior, even when such behavior is seen as abnormal. Then we have socio-cultural perspective. And then we have socio-cultural perspective. So, socio-cultural perspective views mental disorders are products not only of the person and the person's immediate environment, but also of the larger culture within which the person develops. So, the kinds of psychological distress that people experience, the ways in which they express that distress, and the ways in which other people respond to a distressed person vary greatly from culture to culture and over time in a given culture. So this socio-cultural perspective brings insights from social psychology, sociology, and anthropology to the attempt to understand these variations. And then we have DSM-5. DSM stands for Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, 5th edition. which is a system devised by the American Psychiatric Association used by most professionals to diagnose and classify abnormal behavior. Next, we have psychological disorders. So I have mentioned few psychological disorders such as anxiety disorders, somatoform disorders, dissociative disorders, mood disorders, personality disorders, and childhood disorders. So from this slide onwards, I'm not going to talk about each and every disorder in detail, but surely from a different video, I'll be talking about each and every disorder in detail. So we'll see anxiety disorders. Anxiety disorders are those in which fear or anxiety is the most prominent symptom. Although fear and anxiety can be used as a synonym, fear is more often used when the fear stimulus or event is specific and present, and anxiety is more often used when the stimulus or event is vague, which means not identifiable or in the future. Cognitively, anxious people worry excessively, especially about their own lack of ability to cope with unpredictable future danger. Anxiety disorders are, as a group, the easiest disorders to treat and have the best long-term prognosis, which means tough chance of recovery. So I have mentioned few anxiety disorders such as generalized anxiety disorder, phobia, obsessive compulsive disorder, panic disorder, and post-traumatic stress disorder. Then we have somatoform disorders. Somatoform literally means bodily form, and somatoform disorders are those in which the person experiences bodily ailments in the absence of any physical disease that could cause them. More generally, cross-cultural and historical research suggests that prevalence and precise nature of all categories of somatoform disorders are very much affected by cultural beliefs. Few people in North America or Europe today believe that a person can be stricken suddenly blind, deaf, or paralyzed without medical cause, so those forms of somatoform disorders are much rarer in the West now than they were in the 19th century and earlier. Moreover, as disorders purely of mood or emotion become more legitimized by a culture, the incidence of somatoform disorders of all types tends to go down, and that of anxiety and mood disorders tends to go up. The more westernized a culture, apparently, the more its people express their misery in psychological rather than physical terms. So, some of the somatoform disorders are hypochondriasis and conversion disorder. Then we have dissociative disorders. Dissociation is the process by which a period of a person's life, ranging from a few minutes to years, becomes separated from the rest of his or her conscious mind in such a way that it cannot be recalled or can be recalled under special conditions. Dissociation can be produced in many people through hypnosis. So, examples such as dissociative identity disorder, dissociative amnesia, and dissociative fugue. Then we have mood disorders. Mood refers to a prolonged emotional state that colors many, if not all, aspects of a person's thought and behavior. It is useful, though oversimplified, to think of a single dimension of mood, running from depression at one end to elation at the other. Because we all have tasted both, we have an idea of what they are like. Both are normal experiences, but at times either of them can become so intense or prolonged as to promote harmful, even life-threatening action. Severe depression can keep a person from working, lead to withdrawal from friends, or even provoke suicide. Severe elation, called mania, can lead to outrageous behaviors that turn other people away or to dangerous acts that stem from false sense of security and bravery. Examples: major depression and bipolar disorder. Then we have personality disorders such as antisocial personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, and narcissistic personality disorder. Then we have childhood disorders, example major depression, attention deficit hyperactive disorder, and autism. Then we look at treatment of psychological disorders. There are two types, psychotherapy and biomedical therapy. Psychotherapy is based on psychologically based therapy, and biomedical therapy is based on biologically therapy. So both share the goal of resolving psychological problems by modifying people's thoughts, feelings, expectations, evaluation, and ultimately behavior. And now let's see approaches to treatment. First we have psychoanalytic approach. Psychoanalytic approach seeks to bring unresolved past conflicts and unacceptable impulses from the unconscious into the conscious, where patients may deal with problems more effectively. To do this, therapists use techniques such as pre-association and dream interpretation. Then we have behavioral approach. Behavioral approach view abnormal behavior as a problem rather than viewing that behavior as a symptom of some underlying cause. To bring about a cure, this view suggests that the outward behavior must be changed by using methods such as aversive conditioning, systematic desensitization, observational learning, token systems, etc. And then we have cognitive approach. Cognitive approach considers that the goal of therapy is to help a person restructure his or her faulty belief system into a more realistic, rational, and logical view of the world. And then we have humanistic approach. Humanistic approach states that the underlying rationale is that people have control of their behavior, can make choices about their lives, and are essentially responsible for solving their own problems. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. If you need more help regarding notes and more facts, please do contact me via my email address cascade.psychology@gmail.com, and please don't forget to subscribe. Watch my next video on research methods. Thank you.